I was impressed by a therapeutic method capable of curing almost each and every disease or sickness. A method which everyone could learn to apply in his daily routine in order to take care of his own health. It's the so-called verbal homeopathy, or said in other words, how to turn water into medications. May I introduce Mrs. Silva Doncheva to you, a well-known homeopath and astrologist. Hello? Hello. Our viewers know you well because they have seen you plenty of times on TV. Yes, they do. How did all this start? When was your first experience with homeopathy and how did you come to create your own method? It all began 12 years ago. My interest in homeopathy transformed into a hobby and then into a mission. Why did you consider homeopathy so many years ago? As often happens, there was someone ill at home. On top of that, my immune system is not that strong. I have chronic bronchitis, and I was forced to take antibiotics from 3 to 7 times a year, which had strong adverse and side effects. Reaching a certain age, let's say when you're over 35, all that treatment starts to reflect on your daily life. I had to look for an alternative to traditional medicine, since I was getting worse and worse with each year to come. Following what you have just said, I must admit that almost everyone has tried homeopathy for that reason, but in your case it's you who starts looking for a cure, not depending solely on your colleagues. Because it turned out that homeopathy is a way of living. It turned out that one should take homeopathic medications constantly. In other words, I will have to visit the doctor every month or every other month, which is fine on one hand, but on the other hand it gets pretty annoying. Are you saying that if you have managed to cure a certain health issue, we will have to visit the doctor again? Yes, because homeopathy is food. It's not exactly a treatment method. I take approximately 300 homeopathic preparations on a daily basis. We have several bodies. It's not only about the physical body that we have. But we are switching to astrology right now. I linked homeopathy with astrology. Homeopathy is information. I see, but I've never thought of homeopathy in this way. I cannot understand why we need constant therapy in case of successful treatment. There will be a commercial break. Back after the commercial break, we continue our talk with Mrs. Doncheva, who is here to present a novel therapeutic method. You mentioned that at a certain moment, having visited many physicians, getting to know what homeopathy is, you decided to take action and develop your own medication or maybe method. Is that really a method? Sure, it is. Homeopathy turned out to be pretty complex because it may take years to find out the right medication to treat an illness, especially when the symptoms are not clear. At that moment, one gets desperate. And reaching that moment, I realized one can take tens of medications simultaneously without observing any adverse effects. Some of the medications will have no effect, while one of them will lead to recovery. That was the case with my son. At a certain moment, I had to provide him with 90 medications simultaneously because of a dermatitis which persisted for more than a year and a half. I contacted several homeopaths who prescribed him medications according to the symptoms. And then partial recovery was observed, unfortunately on the short term. At that moment, I was attending a course and one day I gathered all medications for the treatment of dermatitis. They turned out to be around 87. Oh, you put them together? Not exactly. I prepared 10 bottles with combined medications. A 2-day treatment induced a reaction which manifested the real symptom. The eczema changed pretty dramatically in shape into a spider bite wound. The real medication was set. It is Tarantula hispana. The symptoms changed dramatically from a yellow red spot into a spider bite wound-like injury. My son took approximately 20 times all these 87 medications, and then the real medication emerged. But it took a year and a half. I'm impressed, but there is a thing I found interesting. This medication was prepared using extremely high dilution. We are accustomed to thinking that the more concentrated the medication is, the stronger the effect. There is a theory in homeopathy that things are psychosomatic. Mind comes first, the body comes second. That is the strongest aspect of homeopathy. First, it acts on the mental, the emotional aspects. The body pre-programs the software, and the brain sets new commands in order to fix the way the body functions. These changes have physical manifestation. I'd like to mention that there are plenty of interesting things our viewers will see shortly. How by just taking regular water, one can transform it easily into a medication and cure themselves. If one knows what to pronounce. That is why you are here today, to tell our viewers what and how to pronounce the words, what exactly to do. What you told us in the beginning was linked with classical homeopathy. There are several schools in homeopathy in terms of dilutions used. But verbal homeopathy is quite different. How and when did you come to that idea? Astrology and Masaru Emoto gave me the missing elements to link. Those elements were not so obvious, since everyone works in his or her field and somehow misses to realize things are interconnected. We are information. Now our viewers see photographs representing the crystal structure of water, how it changes depending on the stimuli applied. Is it true that you created your method on the basis of this theory? Yes, it is. But first I realized homeopathy was information. Then it turned out homeopathy is pretty complicated in terms of preparation if one is to prepare the medications on his own. For instance, industrial production of medications with high dilutions takes several hours if automated. If someone wants to do that at home, he will have to spend a couple of days shaking vigorously the vials. There are radionic devices as well, but in all cases, one needs a device. Is there any radiation? There are voice programs called healers. You place a vial of water into a device, and following the instructions provided, you pronounce what you want and then press a button. If an engineer checks how this device operates, he would say it's a nonsense and there is no way to obtain the final result. If we take the device down to pieces, on one hand, we will see that there is nothing inside, but on the other hand, the processed water will have a therapeutic effect. The human voice provides this therapeutic effect. Yes, we use our voices. The role of the device is quite limited. But everyone wants to touch something. Sometimes it's difficult to believe that you can do things which are not tangible. The prices start from $400. You pay for the convenience, not to believe in yourself. You pay because you cannot believe that you can create something that is not tangible. The device makes you confident, but it's you indeed who prepares the medication for appeasing one's conscience. You press a button. But don't we show our viewers, why don't we show our viewers how things happen? This way it will be easier for them to follow our conversation. What kind of vessels do we need? What type of water do we need? What are the steps one has to follow? I see you have brought a couple of vessels. Let me explain about the vessels. If you intend to reuse a lemonade bottle or some kind of a beverage, it will not work. There are some molecules left, and according to the process, the vessel should be clean. This bottle is fine. It's a water bottle. Mineral water bottles are fine. I see you have brought a couple of bottles. Yes, this is...
Може от чешмата, в крайна случай, когато става въпрос за спешна ситуация, човек няма време да търси дори минерални.
It may be tap water as well, when you have no time to look for distilled water.
Примерно 20-30 секунди. Тоест, това е много малко време. Ако трябва да отидем до аптеката с дестилирана, ще загубим случая, да кажем.
Добре, ето тук си донесла
I see you've brought a couple of bottles. This is distilled water, that is mineral water. We need 70% ethanol as a preservative when the treatment is longer. Ethanol does not interfere in any way. That is a standard step in classical homeopathy.
Не пречи по никакъв начин. Всъщност така се прави класическа хомеопатия.
Could you tell us how things happen and demonstrate the method? Is a bottle like this easier to use?
Едно такова шишенце по-лесно ли е за...
Sure, it is. You can add a dropper if you wish. I place a dropper since homeopathy medications should not contact the mouth because the bottle will get contaminated and next time the medication will not work. You add a dropper and the application becomes much easier. So first you have to add water to the bottle. I'm adding water now and you will prepare medication of your choice. The bottle should not be filled to capacity, right? That is merely water.
Да, значи това си е чиста вода.
Чиста вода. Изчакваме няколко секунди, за да се изпари.
Then we add ethanol to capacity. The ethanol forms around 20% of the bottle capacity. Now we have an ethanol solution. We pronounce the names of the ingredients and we add a dropper. If you add a dropper before preparing the medication, it will not work. It's pretty important to be as close as possible to the bottle when pronouncing the ingredients. Imagine the following situation. Someone falls down in the street or at work and the pain is strong. This may lead to a severe hematoma. In the time frame of 10 to 20 seconds, he or she can prepare Arnica montana 200C, which is a high dilution. In order to prepare a sample of therapeutic water, we have to know the principles of homeopathy. There are plenty of books nowadays, so people can acquire enough knowledge. If someone considers homeopathy of interest for him, he surely knows about arnica, ledum and apis. Later we will provide prescriptions to our viewers for treating common symptoms and illnesses which are easy to prepare and do not require special training in homeopathy. But on the other hand, one should start learning about homeopathy at a later point. Tell me how to prepare a sample of preparation. Take a vial, add water. In a case of emergency, there is no need of ethanol. Get closer to the vial and pronounce Arnica montana 200C. Is that all? Sure it is. Shake the vial and there it is. You have a sample of arnica. You can start taking it right away. Comparing it with the medication from the drugstore, it has the same effect. How would you explain that? It's all about information. When someone buys arnica from the drugstore, there is no molecule left. That is the cornerstone in homeopathy. If you take several homeopathic medications to a lab, the analysis will show there is nothing there. We all know about water memory. It is memory transmission which occurs. In the end, there are some molecules which keep the memory of the presence of the substance. If I add water to this vial and keep silent, I can pour from the other one some water and the first vial will transform into Arnica montana 200C. A single vial can provide thousands of new samples, enough for a city like New York. I see your point, but how can you convince me? There are devices that cost $400 reproducing the same effect. If one hurts himself and takes Arnica montana 200C, then no hematoma forms and he realizes the immediate effect of homeopathy. It's better not to fall down. In a while, we will provide the viewers with prescriptions for common illnesses and symptoms. For instance, bee, wasp, stings treatment requires Ledum 200C. It may happen in the mountains or on the beach and could be impossible to act differently. Let me ask you something. As a grounded person who is aware of what homeopathy is, if I add a drop of epitoxin to 1 ton of water and when this volume is diluted to 200 tons, that drop cannot be found if water chemistry analysis is carried out. Nevertheless, the epitoxin was real, tangible. Whereas in verbal homeopathy, if I take a vial and say apis or epitoxin, well, there has never been any epitoxin in that vial.
Докато тук, ако кажем на едно шишенце вода, не знам как е пчелно отрова въобще като ум, но ако апис, ако кажем, тук никога физически не е имало апис.
Sure, verbal homeopathy is a way to transmit information. People started speaking to water a long time ago. This is an ancient method still in use. One has to be aware of the facts and interconnect a couple of things. We are not just bodies. There is a constant process of pre-programming. Then it should come to your mind that you can talk to water. And if homeopathy is information, then we just have a method easy to follow and free of charge. These methods combine in a new way, giving astonishing results.
Неща, че щом хомеопатията е информация, имаме много бърз, лесен и безплатен метод, просто съчетаваме двете неща. Всъщност нищо ново.
You will say that it is a nonsense and that probably I have a very poor understanding of the method. But let me ask you, if now I say orange to this sample of water, will I have a sample of water charged with vitamin C? No, you will not have. However, in 2 hours you will go and buy some oranges. I've tried that. Within an hour or two, you start thinking only about it. Then you will go and buy the physical carrier. Homeopathy has been around for 250 years and it's a validated method. I advise you to stick with materia medica. Do not experiment with medications which are not in the list. I came upon an example yesterday while preparing for the show. It helped me get a global overview. It's about the medication based on the cobra venom. There are the 2 interfering waves which meet. This is how homeopathy works. There is not much evidence on the mechanism of homeopathy. Knowledge is perceived empirically. However, there is a hypothesis based on the principle of superposition of waves, which states that when 2 or more propagating waves of same type are incident on the same point, the resultant amplitude at that point is equal to the vector sum of the amplitudes of the individual waves. Antiphase coherence occurs when the difference is an odd multiple of p. Then the resultant wave is a straight line. Let us take the example with the cobra venom. The symptoms resemble those observed in heart attack, chest pain accompanied by radial pain and so on. Yes, Naya 200CH or Naya 10M are the medications prescribed in emergency cases. Naya is the cobra in Latin. It's a medication for emergency cases in homeopathy, to a less extent arnica as well. These dilutions, AMCH, are quite complicated. Can you speak in a more simple way so that we can understand you? When you buy a medication, it comes labeled so that you know what you have bought. Then you know either which dilution makes you healthy again, and you pronounce the words and prepare the medication on your own, or you make an effort, spend a bit of time to study homeopathy. For instance, I use the dilutions prescribed in the book. They are universal. Let us tell the viewers the following. If I pronounce apple or orange, nothing will happen, because these fruits do not cause symptoms of any disease, while the substances in materia medica are venoms, toxins, which are deadly poisonous. These substances cause symptoms. We have already explained about the meeting waves and the antiphase coherence.
Водата са жестоки отрови, да, и те наподобяват симптоми на различни видове заболявания. И стигаме до тези две вълни, които обяснихме как се срещат. Симптомите, които предизвиква една отрова и подобните на някакво заболяване.
Okay, tell me about the dilutions. What stands for CH and what for M? The Germans use tenfold serial dilutions, the so-called decimal dilutions. D, meaning 1 to 10. The French use 100-fold serial dilutions. C, meaning 1 to 100. Are these dilutions low? Yes, they are, but they work fine. You can prepare D3, D6 or D12. Just one has to experiment a bit when following the German school.
Той реши да прави немски препарат. Между другото има страшно много информация, просто го изучава и си го прави и пробва. Значи човек не може да се увреди, значи единственият момент, че може да забави някакво друго лечение.
Which letter stands for the lowest dilution and which for the highest one?
Айде, нека не казвам, защото тук най-високо може би няма, но коя е
Low dilution D3 or D6.
Да направи D3 или D6.
Let us take some notes.
неща, ако искаш само за...
For example, Arnica montana D3 is the lowest dilution. It stands for 1 to 1 million. 200C is a universal dilution.
Ниско, така.
Това е разреждане някъде 1 към 1 милион.
1 към 1 милион.
Да.
Добре.
Значи това 200C е едно универсално разреждане. Вече 1 към 100 се правят. Това е от C7, което значи 100. Да.
Доста условно, но все пак горе-долу да добием представа.
И това са много високите. Примерно CM.
CM is a very high dilution. It stands for a number with 400 zeros. Low,
Това беше 1 към 1 милион.
middle, and high.
Така.
А това е 10. Разредено с 4, минус 400, т.е. 400 нули. Число с 400 нули.
А това?
Вече не го знаем кое е точно.
Високо разреждане ли е?
Да, това е много високо.
И?
Да.
То ще се равнява кой знае на колко. Не можем да се представим
това
какво е
са
сигурно.
около, значи реално число, което е с разреждане около 10 на минус 10 хиляди.
Добре, кое разреждане трябва да ползваме?
Which dilution is to be used in case of an emergency? 200C will do the job. This is a middle dilution.
При какви ниски?
Високото е по-скоро, когато имаме
And when should we use low and when high dilutions? High dilutions are used to treat anxiety, stress, panic disorders, or when one is frightened by something, for example, earthquakes. In such cases, Arnica CM is the most appropriate dilution. Low dilutions are used to treat injuries, but if the injuries are severe, no homeopathy will help. One should call 911.
сериозно, бягаме към пирогов.
You demonstrated how to prepare new medications via transfer of charged water from one vial to another vial with uncharged. Can such transfer continue to infinity? This water can be charged with anything we want. How does water store the information at high dilutions? The precise mechanism is unknown. There are several theories, though. Can you eliminate the therapeutic effect of the charged water? Sure, if we place the vial in a microwave or if the cell phone rings while the vial is open. The exposure to wave-emitting devices reduces the effects of the medications.
Няма да се, трябва да се отвори, да телефон едва ли не да се сложи на отвора, само така ще стане.
Значи замръзване,
микровълновата, да, замръзване, слънце,
загряване сигурно,
което вече над 50 градуса тя се деформира, изпаряване съответно, ако настъпи.
Ако искаме да стабилизираме и дълго време ще ползваме, казахме, че добавяме спирт, само да кажем пак каква беше пропорция.
Ами значи, ако ви почне да ви свършва, няма нужда да го казвате втори път, освен ако не сте го замърсили.
Exposure to low temperatures, freezing, to direct sunlight, microwaves, temperatures above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, evaporation, all these factors reduce the therapeutic effect. When you are about to run out of the medication, just fill to capacity. There is no need to pronounce for a second time the homeopathic substance. If we pronounce for a second time the substance, the medication should become more effective, right? I would not say so. However, you will become more confident in what you do. What will happen if I take a verbal medication and I charge it with one more substance? It depends, but one should pronounce the name of the substance when the vial is open. The cap and dropper should be removed. One should come as close as possible and then pronounce the words. I have a friend who tried to prepare medications by pronouncing the words from distance, but there was no effect. The process requires a definite sound intensity level. Can I use cough instead? No, you cannot. A single molecule left interferes, resulting in no effect. Contamination should be avoided. The lips should not touch the dropper. How do you apply verbal homeopathy in practice? In order to understand what homeopathy is, one should spend some time and study the basic principles to get a global overview.
Кажи ми някои от тях за какво са?
Произволно. Високо кръвно, да.
Добре. Ние след малко ще дадем точно рецепта как да си направим.
Да, невралгия.
Добре.
Да, бронхит, нали? Там нещата при мен винаги са така. Ето тук са неща, които са възпаления.
Добре, да.